As a creative aspect, TV is one of the best things that we do as a species. Along with music and film and books, they bring out the best creative of all of us. They entertain and they bring so much joy to many. They invoke emotion and enable us to feel things that we bury sometimes deep down. That's what this podcast is for. Welcome to A Million Little TV Shows. This is what I call the breakdown while I break down. Each week I will go through a different TV show, a different season of that TV show, and different episodes of that show. And I will break down not only emotions, but I will break down stories from my life, and let you know why these TV shows mean so much to me, and why I believe that they are some of the most important shows out there. This podcast is here to highlight a lot of smaller TV shows, or TV shows that don't really get a platform, because we know of a bunch of TV shows that get a multitude of different podcasts. Ted Lasso, Game of Thrones, The Office, they've all got several podcasts out there analysing all types of different things. But there's not many out there for the little guy, and that's what I'm trying to highlight. So each week I will go through a different show, different seasons, different episodes, and I will go across all different kinds of genres and different countries to bring you what I believe is some of the best TV out there. So I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad you're here for this journey. And if you've watched the shows before and you wanted to come here and get an analysis on them and have someone go through them and pick out bits that you might have enjoyed, then I'm glad you are here. If, however, you have never watched the show and you just want to come and have someone talk in your ear about different TV shows, I'm glad you are here. But I hope that it inspires some people to go and seek out these TV shows. They deserve to be watched. They were made with love and care, and they are the same as this podcast, made with love and care. I am your host, Mike, and I will take you through every adventure, every horror, every piece of drama, and I hope that you enjoy the show. Hello there, and welcome back to this A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is now episode 2 of season 11, and today we're going to be finally finishing up Miracle Workers. Now, I've loved this anthology series, and every season's been different, and this season is very different. It's an odd one, this one, but I kind of like it. It's daft, it's funny, just like the other 3 series have been. But I always manage to have a good laugh with this crew, and it's always great to see them back doing something silly. I mean, Daniel Radcliffe's just a joy to watch sometimes, and Steve Buscemi in this role. Obviously, we know him from loads of different films and stuff, and, Boardwalk Empire, but being in this show is just so fucking silly. Then you've got newcomers like Geraldine Viswanathan, who I just thoroughly enjoy throughout the whole show, and think that she's got a massive career ahead of her. And then John Bass, who throughout this has been an odd one to watch, but in this fucking episode, my God, or in this series at least, my God, what's coming, I don't want to describe until it's happened, because yeah, it's interesting. His outfit is very interesting. But anyway, I'm going to get into it. So, thank you for being here. I hope you're all doing well. But today, we're going to be covering Miracle Workers, Season 4, the final season, episodes 1 to 3. Episode 1, Welcome to Boomtown. Now, this episode's fucking ridiculous. This whole premise of the show is absolutely ridiculous. But we start off and we find out that it is the end of the world. The tagline for the actual show is End Times. And it is a dystopian hellscape. Think Mad Max, a lot of leather, a lot of spikes, a lot of weird vehicles, and a lot of sand. And we see Dan Radcliffe's character, Sid. He is walking through the desert, but then he hears a motorcade coming up behind him, of all types of different vehicles, and so he runs. However, after a minute, he bumps into John Bass's character, who at this point we're not sure who he is. However, he starts yelling, and he is in this fucking outfit. I think every time I see John Bass, it's going to haunt me, but it just makes me laugh as well at the same time. So he's in this sort of leather underpants with spikes all over it, and then he's got like a leather strapped jacket on which doesn't have any sleeves, a bit more like a kind of gimp suit, and he looks a fucking state. But It's fucking good. It's so funny. And he raises the alarm. He essentially tells these people, these sand dwellers, where he actually is. Eventually, Geraldine Viswanathan's character, Freya Exaltada, comes over. She is basically a badass. She's like a warrior woman. She is someone who essentially just causes mayhem wherever she goes, and is just this sort of wild woman, someone who cannot be tamed, but she is the leader of this group that is hunting Sid at this minute. As soon as her and Sid start fighting and things are getting a little bit heated between the two of them, because they just start making out. And then Sid and Freya decide that they're just going to get married, and they're going to move in together, and they're going to go and live in a place called Boomtown. And Boomtown is basically the last place at the edge of the earth. It's basically just a small settlement, except using stuff like scrap metal that's all around. Think a little bit like Tatooine in Star Wars, that kind of place where it's pretty dodgy, pretty rough, and somewhere that Freya will absolutely clean up because they don't know what kind of person she is. She says that she's going to run that town, she's going to burn it to the ground, and she's just going to get on her way. However, her and Sid decide to move in because, well, they've got married, they're going to start to settle down. Why not? And so Sid goes and gets a job. He goes and meets Morris Rubenstein, played by Steve Buscemi, who is also called the Junkman. And he's basically a scrapper, or at least he owns a place where scrappers come. They drop off all sorts of metals and parts and anything that they really find. He takes them and he pays them out, and then he sells these pieces on for whatever people need them for. And this is where Sid is going to start working. However, when someone comes in to threaten Morris, Sid stands up for him. He takes this guy out, and straight away he's basically Employee of the Month. Morris takes him under his wing a little bit and decides to take him to their house that night. So Sid and Freya go over that night, and they're having dinner with the boss. It's here they meet Holly, played by Erin Dark, who is a hologram, but she is also Morris's wife. Earlier on in the day, Freya had actually met up with Karen Sony's character. Karen Sony, I forgot to say, played the gunslinger in the last season, and this time he is playing TI-90, or Ty. Now, TI-90 is very much a rip-off of the Terminator. He even has the glowing red eyes and a big leather jacket, and yeah, he looks exactly like the Terminator, apart from the fact that he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger whatsoever. But the dress is exactly the same. But while he and Freya started talking, he tells her, look, I can't believe that you're domesticating yourself. And so during this dinner, when it comes up again that she's basically domesticating herself, that Sid will go out and earn the money and she will be the stay-at-home wife, and she turns around and she's like, that's not what I want. That's not who I am. She heads to the bathroom and she calls up TI-90, Ty, and tells him, look, I need you to come and rescue me. I need you to come to this place and just come and bail me out. He turns up and he helps her out, but while he does, he causes such a ruckus that Ty actually gets Sid fired. So now Sid has gained a job and lost a job all in the same 48 hours. And all because Freya didn't want that life of servitude or just domesticity. However, when she leaves and she tells Sid exactly the reason why she did what she did, because she tells him that she called Ty, he says, well, why don't you just tell me what you wanted? He doesn't mind what they do as long as they do it together. He couldn't care less if they live in Boomtown or in the wastelands or wherever, as long as they're together, and that is all that matters. And sometimes that is just the nicest feeling, to have that peace and care in your life. When you find that person who, it doesn't matter where you live as long as you live with them, that is just such an incredible feeling. However, when they get home, they actually find out that John Bass's character, who is actually named Scraps the War Dog, has basically done what most dogs do. They go a little bit crazy when people are out of their room. He is basically started to tear the whole place apart. He also tells them that someone has thrown up in their shoe and then eaten what they've thrown up. So he's a very untraditional character in this, in the fact that he is a human pretending to be a dog, and he's wearing this ridiculous outfit as well at the same time, and he's just acting like he is some sort of BDSM toy. But once she realises how much Sid was willing to give up for her, Freya decides that they can stay where they are, they can live where they are, but she needs to get him his job back. So she goes into full warlord mode and goes and sees Morris again. she threatens him and tells him, look, you are going to re-employ my husband or I'm going to do some unspeakable things to you. The next time we see him, he tells Sid that he has recently had his esophagus pulled out through his rectum, but he also tells him that he is willing to re-employ him and keep him on going forward. So it looks like they're going to be staying in Boomtown. Episode 2, the HOA. Now, in the UK we don't tend to have homeowners associations. I've heard of them, I find them ridiculous. I know that there are a lot in the States, and yeah, I just find the whole concept fucking stupid. But hey ho, if that's the way you want to gentrify your own area, then you do you. Anyway, that is the subject of this particular episode. So, Freya starts putting out some decorations because she wants to, move into the neighbourhood and do things properly. However, her version of doing decorations happens to be the severed heads of her enemies hooked up to a battery that then start to sing once she actually plugs it in. So graphic is probably the best way to put it, but she has her thing and that is okay, except killing people isn't okay. But she thinks that that is going to impress the neighbours. However, then she gets a letter from the Homeowners Association which basically says that she needs to take them down because they don't agree with her ways, and that she is essentially ruining the area. But of course, Freya isn't going to take that lying down. She's a warrior after all, and she wants to find who these people are. She believes that they're actually called HOA, not the HOA, and so she goes to plead her case. Well, she does it in the Freya way that she can, by storming in and telling them that she's going to kill them all, and she's going to take over, and she's going to rule the whole thing. They, however, tell her that that's not what's going to happen. To get the role, you have to be elected. And since there is a run for the presidency, Freya decides to run as well. She's going up against a woman named Linda, and she goes at it the only way Freya really knows how to at first. She starts to try and intimidate people. However, when one of the patrons actually tells her, why don't you just do things the way that the others do it? Start making improvements around the actual village and make things better for us. If you start making the town better for us, then we'll consider voting you in. And so that's what Freya does. She starts to embrace the town and she starts to look after it and make things more hospitable for the people who live there. Of course, it doesn't seem to matter the efforts that she's got because the HOA are generally a set group of people and they want things done their way. So when Freya finds out that the election's already been called and that she didn't win, she's furious again. She goes over to threaten them once again, but they tell her, look, just because you didn't get president doesn't mean you can't be vice president. And so, even though she didn't want to get into this domesticated space, she has now made a home for herself and she has joined the Homeowners Association, which is the most domestic thing you could probably do. Sid, however, is at work, and Morris ends up getting this package. And whatever this thing is, it seems like a world-destroying deadly device. Sid seems very cautious about who they should sell this to, but obviously Morris is more about the money. He just wants to get as much money as possible and he doesn't care where it comes from. Sid tells him that he needs to be careful, and when they go and visit a mutant named Ugulus Sleaze, who is very much like the character in Blade, who Blade goes to see in the first one, where he ends up killing him via the UV rays. But also he's a little bit like Jabba the Hutt as well. And so instantly Sid just doesn't trust him. Everything that comes out of this guy's mouth, by the way, he's played by David Dasmalchian, which is a brilliant piece of casting because it looks nothing like him apart from a little bit in the face. But it obviously is his face, so it should do. But he's telling Sid basically things that Sid feels are world-ending and that he just wants to kill everybody. And so Sid is having a real crisis of conscience. He can't decide whether to actually leave this deadly device in the hands of a man who's going to use it to wipe out the world or do something about it. Eventually Morris just goes with his own want and hands this device over. It's here we continue to see Ugulus Sleaze really going to town on this device. He's kissing it and he's licking it, and he's in all celebration of it. He cannot wait to use this thing, and he's so passionate about it, and he's just ready to show its power to the world. And so, not being able to take it anymore because he's so worried about what Oculus Sleaze is going to do with this item, Sid ends up killing him. However, when Oculus Sleaze's assistant comes over and says, "I can't believe that you've killed the man that was trying to bring peace to the world," he tells her that Oculus was going to use this device to end people and end the war between his factions. And she says, yeah, he was. It's a karaoke box. They all love karaoke, and he was going to give his gift of his voice to the world. And people could listen to him sing and forget about all the problems in the world, but you have now killed the man that was going to save us all. And so Sid just can't believe it. He leaves and goes home and finds his wife happy as all fuck because she has basically got what she wanted. She wanted to be a part of the HOA, and she is now. But when he turns up, it's like he's the one who's had the really bad day. And I mean, don't get me wrong, he killed someone, so he's had a pretty bad day. But he turns up and he just walks into the house, ignoring his wife. And once again, we go down the domestic route that Freya never wanted to get into in the first place, and now she's right here. She's joined the HOA, she's being ignored by her husband, and she's moved into the area. So, I mean, it sounds pretty domestic, doesn't it? Episode 3, The Matrix 6-6. That's the Matrix with 3 X's at the end, just so you know. And so we see our couple, Freya and Sid, are having another issue that generally plagues a domestic couple. They've started to settle down, and their sex life has started to suffer. It's something they very rarely do anymore, whereas when they were out in the wasteland, before they got married, they were just doing it wherever they could. And now they're in this domestic situation, and they've got jobs, and they're part of the HOA, and yeah, they're not in that zone anymore. Even sex seems like a chore. They roll over and basically say to each other, should we maybe do it tonight? And then it just seems like more of an issue. But then as they're about to do it, Sid looks over and he sees Scraps just sat there looking at them. Again, it's John Bass playing a dog, and he's just sat in the corner watching them as they're trying to have sex. And when Freya says, oh, don't worry, he doesn't know what that is, Scraps talks. He's a human, but he's playing a dog. And he just says, oh, of course I know what that is. It's you and him are having sex. It's a perfectly natural thing to do. But having a fully grown man sat in the corner of your room watching you have sex could be off-putting to certain people. I know that there's people out there that would do that happily, but in this case it's not something that Sid wants. And so they speak to Ty about this. He basically says that he can plug them into the Matrix, and then they can actually sit and talk through their feelings and talk through everything that's been going on. They can start creating scenarios in this virtual world and see what kind of takes off for them both. That way there's no judgment and there's sort of no shock when they come back into the real world, and they can just manage each other's kinks. And so they go into this world, and we initially see Freya's version of what she wants. She has been kidnapped by Sid, who is her nasty neighbour, and essentially she wants to be tortured. She is sat on a metal chair and it is hooked up to a car battery. She keeps taunting him until he actually pulls the lever on this device and it sends thousands of volts through her body. But she is enjoying it, she is loving it. And just before she is about to burst, as she puts it, Sid says, I'm out, I can't do this. They then go into what Sid considers as his kink. He tells them that he's into boulders. Don't be judging people for their kinks, but that is what he wants. He wants a boulder in the room, and essentially he sets this scenario up where he and Freya have a threesome with a boulder. But it turns out that Freya just really isn't into it. She moves away from the whole scenario and sits in the corner while he is really going to town on this boulder. And so in each scenario, they're measuring the levels of horniness of these two. And it turns out, on one hand, that Freya is very horny when she's getting electrocuted, but less so when she's in the room with the boulder, and vice versa when it comes to Sid. So these two seem to be diametrically opposed right now, and maybe their sex life is just done for. However, the person that is controlling the machine outside the actual Matrix isn't Ty, it's actually Scraps. And he has got an ongoing feud with the mailman. So instead of manning the machine, he ends up chasing the mailman down the street. And this leaves Freya and Sid trapped. They're stuck in the machine and they can't get out. So now they are just stuck in a blank room because there is no more fantasies. They start to talk and get to know what the other is thinking about. And they start to realise that their connection is a lot stronger than what they believed it was before. They set up a scenario where they actually end up going for a meal and having a nice time and just sitting and chatting together and just doing the things that couples should be doing, getting to know each other again and just enjoying moments with your partner. And it's because of that, because of them getting to know each other again and the attractiveness of being with that person and being around them, they both get turned on by it. And by the time that Scraps come back to the computer, they are both very horny and end up just doing it in this simulation. And that cuts to them both wearing some sort of VR mask while they are both humping the air and shouting things like, "Ooh, baby," and "Yes, daddy," and shit like that. And it's fucking watching them hump the air on this sofa. At one point, you can pretty much see Geraldine Viswanathan just fucking losing it because she's laughing that hard. It's ridiculous. But fucking hell, what a funny scene that is. But eventually, they're getting to the climax of the whole thing. And it's at this point, just as Sid is about to climax, that Scraps decides to take him out of the Matrix. And when he brings him back into the real world, Sid comes while Scraps is literally looking him in the face. So the reason that they ended up in that situation was because of Scraps, because he's always involved, he's always there, and it's nice for them just to have some time on their own. So they really just need to get rid of the man dog that they've got living with them, at least for a while. But we'll come back to Scraps, and especially his feud with the mailman, because that is fucking dark in the end. Morris, however, has decided to go back to his high school reunion. Now, he was very unpopular in high school, and he was picked on quite a lot. They called him Moaning Morris, but he only moaned because they beat him up, but they beat him up because he moaned, so he couldn't win any way around. However, when he gets there, he's handed his label, and he goes inside. Once he gets in there, though, he finds that all his classmates have died. Because of the rapture, basically, because of the end of the world. They're all just skeletons now, and so he feels smugly superior to everyone because he's still alive. He was meant to be going there to be smug anyway and superior to everyone, but he's just about to leave, and then he looks over into the corner and he spots someone. He goes over and speaks to the corpse of Ron, and throughout the episode we keep seeing him talking to different groups of these skeletons. Eventually, he spies a girl that he believes that he knew her once in school. He used to sit behind her in English or math or whatever it was, and he always had a thing for her. And yes, you can see where this is going. It's fucking vile. But he takes her to the dance floor. They start to dance around, and then he starts kissing her, and then the next thing, they're behind the bleachers and they're fucking. It's such a fucking ridiculous show. But I love it. It's so funny. It's so stupid. But eventually, after their both nights of passion, it seems that Morris has now gotten everything out of his system that he needed to get out when it comes to actually his old school days. He's fought some demons and made up with himself a little bit. And now, of course, the happy couple are just that. They are back together again and they're stronger than ever. Scraps, however, is a little shit. So, as I've said, we see the mailman go home and he has got a wife and he's got children, and his children are coming over that night because, well, you know, it's night with dad. They're going to have a family night. He goes and he sits on his bed and he starts taking his shoes off. And then all of a sudden we see a laser beam slightly move across his head before he is shot in the head. Scraps then comes out of the cupboard and says, "I told you I'd fucking get you." He then unscrews the silencer, puts the gun in this guy's hand, and sets the scene up as if this man has shot himself, and then escapes through the window. It's fucking bleak. I couldn't believe it when I watched it again. I remembered it the first time. I went, he's gonna get killed, and then I was like, shit, that is a fucking rough ending to this episode. But anyway. And so, I was worried coming into this series because I was like, I've only seen it once and I'm not really sure how good it is. I remember bits of it were funny, but I've really enjoyed it. I've just been laughing throughout, and it's such a stupid concept and very, very daft, very, very dark, funny as all hell. And yeah, some of the guest stars that they've had in it so far. David Dachmalshan is an incredible actor, and to get him in this show, which is just a weird concept. I mean, at this point in his career, he was doing stuff like Night with the Devil and shit like that. Like, he's done some great films in the last few years, and obviously just come off the back of Ant-Man. And I just can't believe he was in this series for just one stupid little role. And he played it so well. He did it exactly as he always does, with so much fucking heart. And yeah, it's crazy. Crazy episode. But I've loved this. I was really in two minds about doing this series because, again, I wasn't sure how good it was, but it's just fucking stellar. So funny. And yeah, I've got nothing more to say about it other than that. Oh, apart from John Bass's fucking outfit. Top notch. Absolutely top notch. And he's playing a dog. A human playing a dog. And he can talk. But he's just a human in a GIMP outfit. And there's no real reasoning behind it. Like, I'm sure there's some coming, but there's no real reasoning behind it right now. And it's perfect. It's proper chef's kiss. Especially the dick that he's played throughout this whole series. I remember in the first series he was the romantic lead in the sort of the secondary story that was going on. But yeah, it's so stupid, so daft. But I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I can't wait to cover more with you guys. So I'm done for today. I'm going to go edit this now. And yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Go like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm really glad the numbers are going where they are. And, money has started to come in for this podcast. So all my efforts aren't in vain anymore. I'm really, really chuffed with it. But thank you so much for listening to this and every other episode that you listen to. And if you want to go back and revisit some episodes, do so, because it really helps us out. Like all other podcasts say, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, tell your dog, leave it on for the dog if you want. But yeah, just thank you for your support. And until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye. As always, thank you for listening to this podcast, and you could really help me and the podcast by giving a like, share, subscribe on all major platforms that you listen to podcasts on. As an independent podcaster, this will just help me exponentially when it comes to actually doing more things with this podcast. I truly do enjoy this, and I absolutely love revisiting these TV shows with you guys. So any engagement from you is always welcome. And I will try and listen to all of you when you give suggestions or just tell me what you think about the podcast. But once again, thank you for listening, and until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye.